Albert, how are you?
Well, long day, but I'm happy to be here hanging out with you, talking with you, because it's always going to make me feel better. So it's awesome.
Likewise, Dad. We were texting a little bit earlier today. We usually compare topics for today's stream a little bit beforehand, and you had an interesting way of describing how today was going. But needless to say, it's been a crazy week for both of us, as is, I'm sure it is for everyone that's dealing with the first week of school, family, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's going on, man? Do you want to tell us a little bit about today in general?
Today in general, let's see, like why today was tough for me in particular, or
Yeah, and maybe this will
yeah.
frame the conversation, or whoever for everyone that's coming in today.
Uh,
If this is the first time you're seeing the broadcast, Albert and I have been meeting on Mondays weekly. We've been talking pretty regularly over the last couple months, anyway. But we figured that we'd start streaming some of these conversations. And today we're going to be talking about teaching, parenting, and how score study is life.
is all of that. Is all of that.
Well,
Well, I mean,
the reason I say that is
no,
because
go
I
ahead.
tossed some comments to Albert. I was like, oh, we could talk about this, we could talk about this, we could talk about this, and one of them was me asking Albert how he score studies, and he's like, well, if we start with score study, then that's basically going to lead for everything. I was like, so you're saying score studying is life? And he's like, yeah, basically. So
Yeah, we'll get to all of it. And for those of you who are watching, this is usually how it works. We start with a topic,
yes,
and we may not even touch it, actually.
yeah,
We might talk about it a little bit, and then it goes and goes and goes. Yeah, so join for the ride. Hang in and or hang on and see what happens.
yeah. So you were going to tell us
Might
today.
as well
Today was a little tough.
share this to my page.
Oh, you're going to share
Yeah,
this.
well, I mean, this is so today was day three of like, teaching online. And like all summer, it's like ramp up, prepare, prepare, prepare. And then in your mind, you have this idea that it's going to be great and it's going to be engaging and you work really hard for it. Uh, and then you show up to do the thing and it's draining, it's exhausting, and it's like one dimensional, even though like the students are great. This has nothing to do with the students that I work with on a daily basis. It just has everything to do with how it feels to like talk at a camera. And I think you and I talked about this earlier to where I almost feel like it's easier for me to talk to a camera with no one on the other side
Hmm.
than to talk to a camera or reach people on the other and know that there are people on the other side of the camera. There's the whole the aspect of performing and trying to stay engaged and I mean none of us are trained how to do this. I mean unless you're broadcast journalist or something like that. And I mean
Right.
it's just hard. And I'm and I started thinking about, gosh, well, there's a whole full semester of this, and this is day three. So I'm either going to get better, or I'm going to really continue to get worse. So that's kind of how it goes.
I have
Uh,
confidence. You're going to get better, man.
I'm,
I have
I'm
confidence.
going to choose to get better.
Yeah, you're
I'm
definitely
going
going
to
to get
choose to
better.
get better. I'm going to choose to keep looking for feedback, and genuine feedback, and that's what I want. I don't want someone to tell me that it's going great. I want, it's I need to know what we can do to make it better because I don't do this on a regular basis, and I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
There's this um, we. I know how to drop a downbeat. I know how to do a rehearsal, and I know what to expect. It's just this other side. It's so different, and I know it, we're not the only people that feel this way.
Yeah.
There are a ton of people. There are a ton of people who just started today for the first time, and then we're it's real now
Mm-hmm.
instead of sort of this crazy fantasy that we may have had in our minds, throughout the summer.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where it is. It's just uh, I sort of had this thought that, oh, this could be the whole semester. Awesome. And then it might be the whole year. And so there's a sense of, okay, I need to, how does one pace through all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always feel like every because it's so different that every class has to feel like a home run, and when it doesn't, at least from my perspective, it feels worse. And who knows? I mean, maybe the way I'm feeling right now is a little bit of projection. But I know I can get better, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And I'll just talk to more people, bring in more people that are smarter than me to talk to my awesome students, and do it that way. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we are doing that. I mean, we've got some great guests coming in, and I'm looking forward to that. Jennifer Jolly's coming in on Friday. She's going to talk to us, and I'm pretty pumped about that. So,
Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
that's what's going on.
Yeah, man.
How about
Well,
you? You said your weekend was rough.
it's just a
Well,
lot. Today was, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just, I mean, it continues to be just crazy in a good way. It's all good things. Today was one of those days where, I put my need to get done, most important task of the day, those two or three big things at the top of my list. And it was just like, after the first two meetings this morning, I came out and my wife hadn't left for work yet. And I was just like, I kind of want to just lay down and give up. It was just like, it was one of those things because it's a problem that we've been working on for a while now. And I thought we had the solution. And then it's just like, it's just still, we're like trying to wade through the swamp and get it to work. And I just stopped for a second and, as she always does, she's just like, listen, just take one thing at a time. Try not to get too overwhelmed. Just do the one thing that you're going to do next and don't worry about anything else. I was like, okay, all right, you're right. And so, jumped back in for a few hours. And today was like a super productive day in the sense that, I knocked off two really big things. But when you finish, and then you're like putting out fires throughout the day also as it's going on. But then when you finish and you look back, you're like, okay, a lot of work got done, but there isn't like a thing to show for it. It's not like, okay, I finished the video, this video is done. Or I made this thing that didn't exist before, that's done. It's just a lot of, like work behind the scenes so that when you do the work out front, things work the way they're supposed to do. So
yeah,
that's
no,
good, man.
I get it.
Just putting up a good fight the best we can here. Yeah.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Where all the stuff's going wrong. Oh
Yeah.
well.
This has been a crazy year for sure.
Oh gosh, tell me
Well,
about it.
I mean, okay, let's talk about the teaching thing because we were telling me a
Yeah.
little bit about how this is it's kind of like a new frontier that we're teaching in this new medium. I just taught a class for the first time a couple weeks ago where it was a live setting like this where you can actually see the people you're talking to and you're interacting with them. I would say 80, 90% of my live streaming has been in this format where you're just outputting. It's kind of what you were talking about earlier. It's like you're talking to the camera and then it's just you're presenting as if everything is working and everyone can hear what you're saying. Thanks to everyone who's watching right now. If you want to say hi and let us know where you're watching from, please feel free to do so in the comments, even if this is a replay. But that class that I taught was like you're interacting with people. So I think, or I imagine, just like with real classrooms, every class is going to have a different chemistry and personality based off of the people who are in it. The energy is different. And then the way that we are kind of feeling the energy as the presenter or the teacher is going to be different too, because you've got this technology barrier between us.
Yeah, I mean the technology barrier for me is almost paralyzing. I mean, I remember very clearly, it was last week, and it was my instrumental conducting class. So it's like the second semester conducting class, and it was on Wednesday, and we were just having a lesson, and I was talking. We were reviewing because this was like the first day of official classwork, past the first day where you just sort of talk about the syllabus and you say this is how this is going to happen and you upload your stuff here. It's just longer now than it usually is. And so Wednesday was our first real day last week. And for the first, 20 minutes, it felt just empty. I mean, they were, again, just being really great students. There were 11 of them, and they were just watching, glazed. I call it TV face because I have it, and my daughter Lydia has adopted it. My son Alex, they've adopted it. Literally, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like, and
Yeah.
I'm staring at the screen and I see that. But I can't even remember what I said, but they all like nodded and smiled at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just lit me up. I was like, "Oh my God, you have no idea what you just did for me."
Yeah.
Just that,
Yeah.
just a moment of affirmation. And so you miss that. Like if you're physically in the room with
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
um, you feel it and you notice it, and it's like I think it has a lot to do with musicians in general, and the engagement that a conductor has uh, with the musicians in the ensemble. There is this really big, I mean, it's give and take. They do something that may be inspiring, which then encourages me to do something, and I do something, which then tells them to do something, and so it's
Hmm.
consistently ping-ponging off one another. But
Hmm.
this damn screen keeps any of it from happening. Um, and so
Well,
it's nuts, right? So now it's like I have to work harder. It's like I lean in and I lean back and I move, and I'm when
yeah.
they're talking, whether I mean to or need to nod or not, I'm doing it
Yeah. Yeah.
because it helps them know, right?
Yes.
There was a point where I really, and you have two little ones,
Hmm.
where have you ever here's a Albert Winway pan tangent. Have you ever been in a grocery line when your kids were at a very young age and they're not with you, but you found yourself rocking back and forth in the grocery line as if you were trying to soothe them? Have you been there?
I
You
haven't,
know?
not specifically in the grocery line, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
But
Yes.
yeah, anywhere. It's just sort of this natural swaying back and forth that originally was reserved for your children and
Yeah.
apparently has moved into your life when you're standing in line. I mean, yeah, it happens to me, and occasionally it still happens to me. I find myself just rocking side to side. I feel a little better now. Um,
Wait, is
but
that rocking side to side you like it's an artifact of you doing it with your kids as if your kids are
yes,
there, or are you soothing yourself as you're waiting to hit the checkout line?
well, I imagine it's sort of turned into that because, like, we do it because we're trying to soothe our children, right?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes this habit where you're just sort of rocking back and forth,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's associated with the idea and need to stay calm, and perhaps it transferred. I don't know, but
So if your students see you rocking back and forth in the middle of a class, that means that Dr. Wynn is soothing himself, and everyone should smile and nod just a little bit to give Albert a little
right, because
affirmation.
he's starting to feel bad.
Yeah.
But like in all summer long, in meetings, I will try to, I mean, actively nod
Yeah.
while someone is speaking, just to let them know that I'm paying attention and I'm
Yes.
not private chatting the other people or
Uh-huh.
texting the other people in the meeting,
Right. Yeah.
And there's also that whole aspect of there are distractions everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, the actual physical distraction that a student may have in their home because of whatever limitations they have in their home or their space or their dorm or their
Mm-hmm.
car,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wherever, they have to do what they need to do to be able to get the content that we're providing for them virtually.
Yeah.
Which then inherently creates all sorts of problems, right? Because we all read the Harry Wong book, the first day of class, these are the things that you do. Set expectation, you prepare the space, and we learned all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're asked to teach in an environment where the space themselves, the actual space, is something that we no longer control,
Right.
no matter how hard we prepare. And then throw in Comcast and the undependable the internet that may or may not work,
Yeah.
or the Zoom outage that apparently happened all over the country today.
Yeah.
Should have known that since most schools went back online today.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so that's it. There you go, Albert Linway Pan Ramble. This is usually how it works.
Well, I think it's all the context that we just set it up, which is one of the first prompts I threw at Albert,
Yeah.
and maybe I should say first before we jump into that part is that the audience is watching. Albert, you do have some students. You have Casey Harper saying hi, Dr. Wen, with a little bit of a
Whoa, hey,
wave,
Casey.
and then Ganatra, who's been coming in for the last couple weeks. Ganatra, thanks for your nice comments that you've been leaving for us in our videos, and of course
Is
Nick
this
says
Gannat
hi.
from like New York? New York? Is that where? Is that where we're from?
I'm actually not sure. Ganatra, you
Yeah.
gotta like tell us a little about yourself. Ganatra's been one of our most engaged viewers, leaving not only
Yes.
like commenting during the talks, but also leaving like some really thoughtful messages post
Yeah.
talks as well. So,
Yeah.
so thanks for doing that, and let us know where you're watching from and who you are. We'd love to connect. So one of the prompts I threw at Albert was, advice to a younger you, meaning like
Mm.
when Albert first started teaching. One of the questions I like to ask on the podcast is like, what do you know now that you didn't know when you first started? So you would have given young 22-year-old Albert some advice when he first came out and was like, gonna teach.
Hmm.
What did you figure out after 10 years of doing that, or 15 years of doing it, that you would go back and tell that Albert?
It's hard. My initial response is learn how to say no, because
Mm.
Albert Wynn still doesn't know how to say no. But I think we have to be a little more specific,
Yeah,
like
narrow it down. That's too
because
broad.
yeah,
What I'm hoping for is that
what
what you would tell them is going to translate or transfer to what's happening to us right now.
right. And okay, so the way I look at it now, and this ties in, like if you've anyone watching has kept up with some of the talks that we've had in years past, this ties in a lot with knowing and understanding the value of your time and knowing and understanding how much time you actually have and who in your life holds this time and also needs this time. I think when I was single, it was easy. It was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's midnight, and why not go to Waffle House and do this, and then I can come back and study from 3 to 6, and then I'll pass the test at 9 o'clock. I mean, that's normal, and that was normal at one point. Even when we were in school together in Texas, it was just. I mean, that's when stuff started happening at midnight, and you just did it. But when other people are involved, you can't do that. And then as you continue to get older, your brain doesn't work that way. Um,
True.
and also, I mean, when you're teaching and when you're conducting, making music, being responsible, it's twice as hard. I mean, everyone who teaches knows that you really can't fake it. You either know what you're doing, or you fail enough to figure out how to do it, or maybe you're not really good and no one's going to tell you. Who knows? But in the end, you just have to figure it out, or it just doesn't work for you, and your students don't learn, and then they end up suffering because of it. And so I guess what I know now is that there are things that are worth doing because they are either going to benefit me personally, which then in turn like fills my soul.
Hmm.
These are the things that I'm looking for now. I'm looking for things that grow me. And I realize as the younger version of Albert Wynn, I did a lot of things that may have been empty calories in terms of growing me artistically and growing me holistically. Um, but I'm going to contradict myself because I don't know if I would understand that that's a need if I didn't eat a whole bunch of donuts. You know, um, I don't quite, I don't know yet, but I do know now for sure that there are certain things that are more enriching in my life. Like for instance, like even today, I came home completely exhausted, shoved food down my mouth, sat and talked to Amy for just a little bit, and then because I stayed for marching band rehearsal, and then Lydia had to go up for bed, and I mean I just wanted to like close my eyes for a second.
Yeah.
But Alex was just like up and down. He wanted me to throw the pillows at him because the pillows are crabs. He wanted me to throw the big crabs at him and
Yep.
knock him down. And
Yep.
that's kind of
Yep.
one of the games that we do.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to. But like, that's one of those moments where I was like, but I have to. Not because I'm dad,
Yeah.
I have to because I know that he's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be like this forever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be 10 and I'm going to like be crying looking through my phone at pictures when he was this age thinking, "Oh, remember when why didn't I just throw the damn pillows?" And so I think about moments like that when so I value that and I think there are moments in education that feel the same way. Like like today.
Yes.
Here's another one. Um, I always know that my stress level is high when I wake up, when the 5 a.m. wake ups are automatic instead of alarm clock.
Okay.
That's when I know that
Yeah.
the stress it's reached the point where my body is waking itself up at 5. And when I get to that 4:30 part, that means seek help. But it's been pretty consistent, 5 a.m. wakes. And so today I was like, I'm going to roll out of bed. I'm just not going to sit here and suffer.
Yeah.
And then I've been wanting to get back to 5:30 a.m. wakes anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just rolled out of bed and made some coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, I'll just kind of scroll YouTube and look at Mazda 3 exhausts and look at lowering kit. I mean, just whatever.
Yeah.
But instead, I
Yes.
decided, you know what, the conducting class is coming up. I'm going to go ahead and look at all of their videos and give them the feedback now so that we can start and,
Yeah.
and, and, and do the class thing.
Yeah.
And so I did, and it was awesome.
Yes.
And the class was great. So I think about that. It's like, do I eat the donut
Yeah.
or do I do the other thing?
Yeah.
What do you want to call the other thing? Carrots and celery, I suppose. Good for you. Steak. Um,
Maybe the other
but
way I would
that's
the
what
other way I would look at it with the it's not because it was like, okay, do you eat the donut, or the other example was you're watching the conducting videos and you're making the comments, right? So it's almost like
Mm,
you're outputting as opposed to inputting. I remember I read or saw something and they're basically saying like, yeah, when you first wake up, you hear people who say like, don't do the email thing, don't do the social media thing, which I'm really bad at because when I do wake up, I have a tendency to say like, okay, what fires do I need to put out? Just like real quick, the easy ones. Let me just knock those off real fast. And sometimes that will open up a bigger can that's intended. But the idea is that before you start inputting anything into your stream, like when you wake up, that's when you have the cleanest feed of you to the universe without getting too deep about this. But that's the cleanest feed. You've been offline for X number of hours. So you come on, and that's when you can output, maybe your most creative thoughts or you can think the most clearly before you start becoming inundated with the noise that comes with the day.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It hasn't been until recent, I think, that I've been able to finally get back to that place. Um, so, score study, like we were talking about, part of this is supposed to be score study or what we do, right? If I can recall, I think even when I was teaching high school and middle school, if I was studying a score, it happened at night. I used to say that I'm a night owl, I'm a creative, and I do my best work after 12.
Yeah, same.
BS.
Yeah. That's just because you weren't disciplined enough
What?
to get it done during the day. And now
Well,
you
yeah.
yeah, no.
And it's just like cyclic, It's like, well, I didn't go to bed until 3 in the morning. Well, there's no
Yeah.
way I'm going to get up at 6 now,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like and who knows, maybe so, and maybe my mind evolved. I don't know, but I look back at that now and I think, my God, that was wasted time.
Yeah.
Here I am thinking that I could just do some of my best work after everyone else went to bed, and it just wasn't the case. But I started thinking about why though, like why I felt that was it.
Mhm.
And in the end, I think it had a lot to do with how quiet the evening was.
Mhm.
And, most people were asleep and I was working and I was just kind of doing my thing. And then, I moved to Memphis, still pretty much kind of a night owl. And then Armin Hall falls into my life. He came on. We hired him to be the associate director, and that guy wakes up. He's like, I don't know, 3 a.m. We're getting emails from him. 4 a.m. We're getting emails from him. He wakes up really early, and I just was really impressed by that. And not so much that I tried it yet.
You're like, wow,
but
good for you. Let me know how that works
but
out for you.
right, but enough to be really impressed by it. And then Amy and I started doing some running, and again, this is before kids. And so we would get up and run in the mornings, and that's when it started.
Okay.
Getting up to work out in the morning and then go to work was like when I realized, wow, I put in like 6 miles before the sun even came up.
Right.
Bring it. What
Yeah.
else is coming after me
Yeah.
today? And then and then I realized, okay, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to start, and it was with score study because I felt like I wasn't getting enough done. I had just gotten the job as director of bands at that point. The repertoire load exploded. We were giving 3 concerts a semester of like really hard stuff because that's where they were. And then I'm supposed to digest this and gobble and literally and learn a job and help here and help there and serve on a billion job committees or search committees. And oh, by the way, you're supposed to be perfect on the podium.
Yeah.
There was no way that was going to happen if I didn't wake up at 5 in the morning to study. It just wasn't going to happen. And so that's how I found more time. I kept saying to myself, well, I wish I had 28-hour days. Well, the reality is none of us do. But as you said earlier, we have our best hours. And I discovered then, and it was because of Joel Puckett's, one of Joel Puckett's pieces, serious. That's where I was like, oh, wow, my best thinking and my most clear thinking is happening before the sun goes up, not after the sun goes down. And at that point on, it was like, nope, you get up in the morning, I do a little prayer, and I make the coffee. Actually, it's make the coffee's being made, and then I have my little spiritual moments to myself. And then the coffee's done, I drink the coffee, and then I sit for a bit, and then I come into the office, crack, score, go.
Yeah.
And then eventually he wakes up. Well, after you get into that groove, life has a way of throwing another curveball, right? Then we have kids. That doesn't happen anymore.
Change everything.
Yeah. So for 5 years, yeah, Lydia's 5, and then Alex, right? For 5 years, I felt like my score study, my class prep, my planning was still 15 minutes here, still 45 minutes here, still an hour here. Keep your eyes open for the next 30 minutes at the end of the day so that you can at least get something done. It was just constant, just finding a place to do it, and I now I think I can do it again because Lydia is sleeping longer. Alex is at least on average getting to 7 p.m. So now I know that if I'm up at 5 or 5:30, at the very least between an hour and an hour and a half of like Albert time. Yeah. And it's like it's the intense score study stuff, which I think for 5 years that kind of protected time has not been available. It's just been all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Thanks for sharing all that, by the way.
It's your turn.
Sorry?
I'm talking too much. It's your turn.
No. Man, I gotta tell you, I think I say this every week when we have these talks. It's like there are these glimmers from our conversations that kind of hang with me throughout the week. And one of the things I'll do is like I haven't been able to like watch our entire talks because there's this other time, but I'll pop in real quick and I'll say like, let me see how the stream came across this week, or like was the signal okay? Oh, it started getting kind of weird, glitchy at the end. which is why we're trying this new setup this week. We're trying to get the technology better, which sometimes makes us take a couple steps back, but that's part of growth.
Yes.
But these pieces of our conversations will hang with me throughout the week. And this past week, we talked about, how do you know too much is too much? What do you do when you get overwhelmed? I can't believe that was only a week ago, because a lot changed for me from our Monday conversation last week to this past week. I knew that I would be sprinting basically until the end of this month. So I had 2 more weeks to go when we had our talk last week. And you made me pause for a moment. You made me think, like, man, if I keep going this rate, am I going to break before the end of the month? I was like, because I don't want to wait until it happens. And I think it was just something about the timing of our conversation and, a few more people mentioning things to me that made me realize, like, oh, I probably should be sleeping a little bit more. And so this past week, I've actually been catching, more sleep than it's been in the past few weeks. And hearing you say all these things, I can already kind of imagine how I'm going to plot out the things that you've said in the last bit of time this past couple weeks.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great. Oh, is it bedtime already?
She's way past over her bedtime, man. She's supposed to be sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are we in school yet? Are we with Mimi? Are we in
yes,
school yet?
And it's not new for us in the sense of the schedule of getting on and doing the Zoom class. When you were talking earlier about how it's just a different animal having to teach into the cameras, I've been watching her elementary school teachers just, fire at a 10 out of 10 every single day they get on, and as a parent who's sitting there watching them, I'm sure most parents are like, oh, okay, they're doing their thing. But as a teacher and a parent, I'm watching, just, man, they're doing it, And I heard a parent say something when we pick up like these supply packets at the end of each week for the following week. And one of the parents
we do
was
the
saying,
same thing.
Yeah. So there's like the weekly pickup, and you get to say hi to the teachers for a moment. And I heard some parents say something along the lines of, oh, it must be so much easier because there aren't as many kids in the classroom here. And and I said it in like a nice joke. I was like, oh, no way. Do you see how much work that they're putting into these broadcasts and these little packs that they're like, someone had to sit there and cut all those little round squares out and put them into a bag to prepare for the kids to pick up this week. So you're prepping 26, 30 children's worth of work ahead of time while you're doing the live streams in the class. I mean, just like, there is really a lot of appreciation for this, how much effort and time those teachers are putting into making this class work.
And that doesn't even account for the teachers that are having to do double duty. The teachers out there that have to do a portion that is virtual, and then another portion that is face to face. I mean, I think about that, and one, I feel very fortunate that our institution decided to go virtual, at least for a little while, and then decide later if we're going to open back up. Because at least I don't have the mental anguish of, am I going to be safe? Are my students going to be safe? Is anything, I've got friends all over the country, and so do you, who are so anxious because of what they have to do to keep their jobs. And that's another layer of difficulty.
The theme of the talk is happening as we're giving the talk. Yeah.
The what talk?
Yeah, the theme of our talk is just like balancing and kids and it's all happening, dude. We're like,
well, it is.
And the timeline.
What? I take it all. I accept it all, and it is what it is. Like, in one of my student videos, it was the best thing ever. She was trying to record herself conducting, and she has this cat that kept jumping up to the camera and kept jumping up and kept bothering her. And so instead of editing all of that out, she just sent me They were supposed to send me 2 videos. I got 3 videos, and in one of those videos, two of the videos were the assignment, and the third video was a bonus blooper reel of all of the cat things, and I loved it. You know, that's okay. I am perfectly all right now with uh, not necessarily knowing what to say on camera. I'm perfectly okay when if Alex comes barging into the here telling everyone out there in the cyberwebs that he has to go to the bathroom. It it that's just life right now, and I think we have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because if not, then we're not accepting all of it, and that's kind of how I feel about that. And there's a big part of that of me that finds a little bit of joy in seeing some of those things, um, in within the Zoom windows and
Yeah.
whatnot. I mean, I know not to comment about it, um, unless they say something first. I mean, there is a certain amount of etiquette. You're not supposed to talk about the room, and you're not, whatever.
Yeah.
But I get it.
I actually think what you're describing is one of the pieces of advice that I would have given myself early on in teaching. If I had to describe, and this is teaching / parenthood. So if I had to describe the type of teacher I was when I first started, it was very just goal focused, as in, here's a student, here's the target that we're trying to get them to. What are the 20 steps that I'm going to take them through to get them there? And then I'm just going to coach them on each step to get to them to that point, right? And I hadn't developed the maturity or the awareness to all the social, cultural, emotional, mental sides of working with people and students and things of that nature. So what I would describe this as is, I had a student early on who was just kind of a mess, like the student would always forget their binder or not have their instrument. And, I'd give them a little spiel about, okay, well, one thing you can do is pack your bag and pack your instrument, put your instrument next to your backpack at night before you go to sleep. And if you do that every night before you go to sleep, you'll never forget your instrument again. You give them the spiel, and then the next day they forget it. And then you say, well, did you do that thing we talked about? And they said, no. You say, okay, we'll try it again. And I was I wasn't even that nice about it the way I just said it now. And what happened for me was once we had kids, I went from, hey, how am I going, like, why is this student not doing the things I'm telling them to do, to, if this was my child and this was my student, what would I do to help get them to where we're trying to get them? And so the big word for me would be empathy, of just, it's, everyone's got a different thing going on, and your job is just to kind of help make life better for everyone around you the best that you can. And right now everyone's in the Zoom situation, and you can see some people are a little bit more empathetic to everyone else than others. And for me, at least, that definitely changed once I became a parent.
Yeah, I mean, and even down to resources. Like at our school, we've provided remote learning, like, spaces. Because we know that some of our students just they don't have a laptop, or their computer is so old that they can't even run Zoom, or the phone is the best thing that they have to be able to do some of these things. And then we're asking them to do this beautiful playing that's captured on a microphone, and we want to be able to give them the proper feedback. I mean, we can't. If they don't have the stuff, they don't have the stuff,
Yeah.
and so we got to find ways to provide it for them, and that's so that's also the other thing that we're doing, which helps. But I think about that a lot. I think about the assignments that I make now, and my first thought is, okay, so for the student who only has the low budget option, will she or he be able to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, what kind of accommodations do I need to make?
Right.
Or how else can I evaluate their work then, if I know that the overall quality of this the recording or video may not be where it needs to be. Yeah, things I never thought that I would have to think about. Primarily because I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate to have the things that I have, and there's not a technology gap for me.
Right.
My gear acquisition syndrome has served me well during the pandemic.
Speaking of your new, you got some new audio additions to the setup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got a
What
really
are you
cool
rocking
mic.
now? Tell
It's the
tell some of the
AKG
tech
Lyra.
specs. What is it?
The AKG Lyra.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's let me show you. Here it is, and it's got 4 microphones in it, I
Only
believe.
4?
Yeah,
How
because
many
I
polar
can, you can
patterns?
set it up. It's really great. You can set it up for uh, it's good for podcasting because it's set up this way. But like if you and I were actually in the room together, I wouldn't
Oh,
have to have 2 microphones. I could just set it up to where it would record me, and then there were
the
some
figure eight.
microphones that would record you and
Nice.
whatever you call that. I just turned some little knobs and it does its thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's I like it because I can then now hook my headphones to it, and I can step further back.
Yeah.
So in my conducting classes, I'm not like tethered to the desk. I can actually step further back and model a little more of what I'm needing to show them
Yeah.
for class,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, if
it was
there's
very nice for the school to buy that for us. So I mean, yeah, our school has done a really great job
supporting you
in
guys,
doing that. Yeah, supporting the faculty and supporting the students.
it's great.
Hmm.
Well, maybe there is, the silver lining here that I've been looking for is I've been hearing a lot of people say that now that we've figured out how to do this way, if and when things go back to normal, we're not going to go back to the way that things were. We've been forced to experiment and try with new things that will actually make the way we practice and perform in normal circumstances even better. Do you see things like that kind of bubbling up for you already?
Yeah, I mean, and even I, I wish I were a software sort of engineer person or had really good friends who did that, because I'm thinking about things that I would like to create, right? And so we all know there's this whole issue with synchronous music making long distance. I'm and to be completely honest, I'm not a major proponent of trying to create that, nor am I saying that I want to endorse that as a legitimate ensemble experience. I think it is possible to do that, but for me personally, I just cannot replace pupil to pupil, heart to heart in the same space kind of music making. I think there's an energy there that is created by all of our creativity that just cannot be duplicated. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have high quality experiences,
Mm-hmm.
by collaborating with people remotely. But I've thought about ways at creating different learning experiences. So let's dream for a second, right? So we will eventually find a way for people to be able to afford. It's already possible to have synchronous music making remotely. You just have to have a lot of gear and you have to be hooked up to like super crazy internet stuff. But there will be a day where we can do that and then combine that with VR. And so like my dream now is to have like sort of a real life practice where you're actually participating in either a pre-recorded concert or a live event. Let's say you are a horn player and you want to play, you're working on your fourth horn excerpts and you discover that the Chicago Symphony is playing Shostakovich 5, which has a great fourth horn excerpt. You pay a virtual performer ticket, and for that virtual performer ticket, you get to sit virtually with your VR glasses in the fourth horn chair.
Yeah.
You see the conductor, there's
Yeah.
Muti.
Yeah.
getting ready to drop a downbeat. You look up and you look around, you see the entire orchestra. They are actually performing live. You're just in your room, and whether you make it or not, it's of no consequence to their performance,
Yeah.
but you're in the performance,
Yeah.
right? You're playing
Yeah.
your part. You're following a conductor. The sound's so good that you hear it. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be live for them. It could be these things that are created. But this idea that now with our technology, we can create scenarios like that will then train musicians even better,
Mm-hmm.
um, and train them with like the highest quality of music making in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it's we're not talking about following a MIDI recording or a mediocre recording. We're talking about freaking Chicago Symphony, you know,
Yep.
or Berlin, um, being able to see a real conductor. And so I think that what I'd like to see is for us to solve the problems of remote learning, distance music making, et cetera, to do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I can see how that would help create access for so many different people for one reason or another who don't have access to that kind of experience. Look, man, I grew up in small town Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way. I mean, there's no way that we were ever going to take a road trip to Chicago and hear the symphony. I mean, we couldn't even afford to hear the Fort Smith Symphony, let alone my parents knowing that that was something that they probably should be exposing me and my family to. You know, I did get a chance to play with the Fort Smith Symphony once and played right in the middle of a grand pause. In a rehearsal.
No, really.
Night on
Not
Ball.
that you've
I'll
ever
never
thought
forget
about
it.
it again ever since,
Never,
right?
ever, no, no, dude. I think about that every single time. Every time I hear that piece of music, I know where that grand pause is, and I know that I pooped right in that rest as
Dude,
loud as possible.
that's great.
Scarred.
That's great, man.
But and, you know, like this is how technology can then bridge the gap between people who are fortunate enough to have access to beautiful things like that
Mm-hmm.
and people that may have grown up like me or worse, and also need access to that. To me, it levels the playing field, and
Yes.
that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see technology help level the playing field, and then of course inflate what we already do, expand what we already do as teachers. That's my dream. Someone fix that. Someone make that. Right? VR classes, simultaneous,
Well,
multi, conduct, drop the downbeat, fourth horn,
Yep.
T5.
yeah.
That's my goal.
Albert wants that scenario delivered to him in a box.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
gonna
Can I
show up.
copyright an idea?
Yeah.
Copywritten by Alpha Win right now.
Dude, you come with ideas all day. Now you just gotta take the steps towards executing it.
I know. Yeah.
There's already a lot of technologies that are close to that. I remember when I was in LA, there was like earlier on, LA had like a touring bus of some sort, but it was like a VR experience where you could go in and put on goggles and you would see, Dudamel and he's doing something. Maybe there was actually music. It's kind of fuzzy now when I think back on it. But there was you weren't actually interacting with it, but you could hear it. I've always thought one of the best seats, or the best seats for some people, depending on the audience member, is in the orchestra, right? Like you get to hear what the orchestra sounds like from that seat. And it's not the full mix sound from out front, but that's kind of amazing because if you want to know how that person does that thing sitting next to them is kind of where the magic's happening.
Yeah.
And I'll say the access thing too, is that's been the thing that's been kind of weighing on me the most over the last 5 to 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
like my first teaching position in Chicago was in a very supportive community. Financially there was a lot of support for the program, administration, parents. It was just like the best setup you could ask for. Super, super fortunate situation right out of the gate. And then immediately after moving to Los Angeles, also in a very, very fortunate situation at Colburn, it's like the facilities, the instructors, the students, just like it's as good as it gets. But we were also working in the Jumpstart program, working with students who, Title I schools. Some students are on free school lunches, and we're trying to close that gap by providing private lessons, an instrument, large ensemble situation at no cost to those families. And for me, that was life-changing in the sense that you see what access to art, beauty, community, music making can do for students, especially at that critical stage that they're in of development. That really changed, my trajectory of like, what is it that I want to do with music and teaching and art and things like that. So that's kind of that was a big turning point for me in setting me on kind of the course that I've been on for the last little bit here.
Yeah. No, I think it's wildly important. I mean, for those reasons, I mean, it's why I love where I teach so much. Because that is a mission for us as an institution. Memphis is not a very wealthy town. It's a cool town. It's a great town. It's got a lot of awesome things going for it. But, towns like us, we struggle from all sorts of things. Everything from poverty to racial divide to not enough good barbecue. Just kidding. Not a great barbecue. But it's I don't know. I mean, I was certainly placed here for a reason, and instead of looking for the next job, I decided to fix it, help it, be a part of the solution, and do the thing. Put my roots down.
Yeah. What year is this for you now at Memphis?
Gosh, I think I am starting on year 12.
Whoa! I remember when you got the
13.
gig, the first your initial gig, it was yesterday. It does not seem like 12 years ago.
Well, and it doesn't even come close to feeling like it's 12 years ago, because I feel like the job is constantly changing. As a school, we're changing, and it's all in the direction of up, and it's awesome. I showed up as the marching band guy, and now I'm the director of bands guy, and we're just it's going, and it's moving, and it's moving fast. Even now, even in the middle of a pandemic, we're building a new building right now. And I got an email from our chair who says that we should be seeing steel frames by October, I think it was 23rd. Can't wait. They've been talking about this building at least since I got here, and then even before that. And so I'm glad that it's here. But
wow. They might finish it by the time you retire.
Yeah, who knows?
No, it'll happen.
But I'm very thankful. I mean, the viewpoint that I have now about people who have, people who don't have, people who need, that's because of this place. It's because of this place, and it's because of the people that I'm around that have helped me see it, and it's cool. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've been talking about bullet journaling and your morning prayer time, and I'm sure that reflection and gratitude play a part, taking that moment to kind of fuel you for the rest of the day. Do you have some approaches and thoughts to that? And before we jump in, we're at the 54-minute mark here, Albert. And
oh, geez.
There are a
really?
couple. Yeah, I mean, this is how our conversations always go, which is a good thing. But just to give the I'm probably if we're shooting for that 1 hour mark. And then there's a couple comments that I want to share here before we wrap today. But tell us about your bullet journaling and give me your process for that morning.
Well, shoot, the people that are around me are tired of hearing it because I'm like total fanboy. But I mean, it's so as out of control as my life is. There are a number of things that have to be consistent, And one for me, I discovered is, and it's when I say discovered, it sounds like it's a long time ago. I've only really been doing this whole thing. It's not even a year, but I'm on my second journal now.
Mm.
But it's the thing that I revisit every morning, and the thing that I revisit every night, and it's now become a habit. It's like I check in with it to make sure that I'm on track. But the other thing that the journal does, it's a list of tasks and plans, et cetera, organized the way that I organize my life. That's the short answer. And it allows me to see at a very quick glance my productivity for the day and the things that I plan to do, and then the things that didn't quite happen. And then of the things that didn't quite happen, there's a habit built into the system that forces you to rewrite everything. Well, in the act of rewriting it, you have to contemplate the importance of that detail and whether or not that detail should be done then, or if it's more important for it to be scheduled for a later time so that at least it's off of your brain and you know that it's scheduled and it's waiting for you in another place. And that's the part for me that I found to be helpful, was that part of reflection and organizing, because I feel that because I am a golden retriever. I want to please my owner. I want to please the people that are around me. I want to make sure that people around me are happy. And no matter how hard I try not to be, in the end, I'm finally okay with the idea that I'm not okay when someone's upset with me. You know, all of these things that it took me to 43 to finally sit down and say, all of a sudden, these things empower me all at the same time, because now I know how to control myself. But because I am all of those things, that also means that everything has top priority. Yeah. Everything has 3 exclamation marks.
Right.
You know, everything has to be done today.
Yeah.
And that the idea of prioritizing was so foreign, because why? You have to do it. Well, again, sort of go full circle. If you were young and single and can go to a Waffle House at midnight, why not? You can do that. But if you have to get up and teach and be inspiring and then change diapers and make sure that so-and-so has where they need to be, and then make sure that you pick up so that you don't get, destroyed by your wife and put in a doghouse. I mean, all
that sounds a little fear-based. Fear-based actions. Fear-based productivity.
Yeah, but it is. It's like.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
That's helped. That's helped a lot. It's helped a lot, and that's where it is. Like when I was saying earlier, learning how to say no. I'm embarrassed to say that not until now. Within the last 3 years was I okay to be able to say no, for one reason or another. Yeah. So, is that what you wanted to know?
Yeah, man. Well, that's having those moments of pause, reflection, clarity of thought, because I feel like we are being just bombarded all day, every day. So carving out those spaces of time, whether it's at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m., 9 p.m., 11 p.m., you have to design those moments into your day so that you can just think clearly for a second, like without the noise. Like, okay, what is it that I'm actually doing? And where do I want to end up 3 years from now, 5 years from now, a month from now? And if you don't have that clear endpoint, then you're not sure if, when someone presents the Waffle House to you, if you have this end destination mapped out clearly in your mind, or you have your priorities of what is most important to you, when you're presented with that thing, it becomes very simple. It's not an emotional judgment. You just very objectively go like, does doing that move me closer to there, or does it not? And if it doesn't, then you just say, okay, thank you very much, but I can't at this moment.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No.
Making those
You're right,
judgments.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a score study is life.
That's a hashtag, dude. Okay,
That's
don't forget your
that's
thought. But tonight, before we went live, we were realizing that we need to make a public Facebook page for Albert. And so when he makes his page and he creates his online maestro presence, one of your hashtags for Albert's page needs to be Score Studies Life.
Score Studies Life. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Score
So
Studies Life.
tell me your Score Studies
So,
Life metaphor,
right, no, okay, so um,
and then we're gonna
things
read
that I
comments
do
after
now,
this.
as far as score study goes, things and that I don't do. I used to get in the weeds, like big time in the weeds about the notes and the music and the rhythms and everything. Like basically, I would try to make an interpretation without gathering all of the information.
Okay.
Or to say another way, I would try to make musical decisions without even fully understanding the form of the music,
Yeah.
which is exactly what you just said. Like, what direction are you going?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to be? What is the full shape of your plan?
Yeah.
And then the thing that is in front of you, is it related to that full shape of the plan? Then if it is, okay, then move in that direction. If Waffle House is not in the cards, then it's easy to let go, and then you don't have to, at that moment anyway, perseverate over the initial amount of balance between oboe and clarinet tone in the melody that happens to be unison. Like I would get stuck on that and sit there. Well, I mean, so who's going to have more balance of color here? Is it going to be more oboe or more clarinet? Yeah. When I couldn't even tell you if it was the B section or not.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, go big
Yeah.
and then zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say that has changed a lot. Like I try not to even make those types of decisions yet until I fully understand the architecture.
Mm, mm.
And so analyze, and then interpret.
Hmm.
That's the short answer.
I think you need to write that down before you go to sleep tonight, Albert. This idea. I mean, this could be one of your Albert. For everyone who's watching, and I have been talking offline about some other projects, and we should mark this one down because today was kind of like philosophical. Hey, what's going on with our lives? But there's like a very technical, mechanical interview that I would want to do with Albert. Be like, okay, what is score setting? What are you paying attention to? What are you looking for? I think some of the viewers, are even the non-musician viewers. They're like, why do they keep saying score study? What is this score study thing that they're even talking about right now? Of course, all of our musician friends are like, yeah, Albert's a big conducting nerd, so they know exactly what we're talking about. But all right, hey, let's wrap with some comments here. Can we do that?
Oh gosh. We
So,
have comments now.
yeah, we're getting there. We're big time, man. We're gonna fire up the merch next week.
Yeah.
Neil,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for the 5 people who came to stop in.
for sure. Neil mentioned, "Wow, so true as your life changes all for the better." So I think that was earlier on about getting older and the how the workflow changes as you age and get older. Ganatra coming in from Boston, thank you, Ganatra. Ganatra mentioned show up authentically, having empathy, and meeting people where they're at really is a great foundation to start with. Great discussion so far. Thank you very much.
Writing that down. That's awesome.
Yeah. Just kind of distilling down. Says, thanks for sharing your stories, Albert and Huei. Respect the perspectives and insights you've brought to the stream tonight. Thank you so much, Ganatra. Thank you for your comments. It's very nice. Mr. Jeremy Spicer, 2 of the very best. I'm loving the dialogue. Bravo, gentlemen.
I love that guy.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I should tell a story about Jeremy hiring me for one of my very first gigs while I was still in college. I had just gotten off a tour with Cavs, and I think he got my name from Manny Maldonado, who maybe got my name from somebody else. And I remember, Jeremy just has a very commanding presence about him. And he left a voicemail for me because I was in a rehearsal, and he said something I don't know why this is so vivid in my memory, but I remember saying here's the deal, here's what we're looking for, this is what's going on, and it's if you would really appreciate it. All right, thanks, call me back. And it's something about the way he said, hey, thanks, call me back. I was like, oh, I need to call him back. It was like he was willing me into calling him back with that very, it's like a declarative sentence at the end. So.
Oh yeah, he's awesome, man. I
man,
worked with him. It was back when the All-American Marching Band was still a thing in San Antonio. Unfortunately, it's no longer happening. But he was part of that staff, and holy cow.
Yeah.
Listening to that man pump up these students, like I'm just sitting in the periphery, and I know he's not even talking to me, but I want to go do the thing that he's telling them to go do, and I would walk through a brick wall. It just, people with that kind of charisma,
yes.
I just admire them. It's just really great, and even people with quiet charisma. I mean, that's also equally important.
Yes.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. All right, we've gone on our usual Albert and Huei walkabout. I think we've hit about 6 or 7 different topics in 1 hour. It's been a good stopping point for tonight. We should thank everyone again for tuning in. If you're catching this live or if you're catching this afterwards, I think we need to do something with all these audio recordings when we're done. I don't know what it is yet. We should kind of compile them and start up a SoundCloud or another podcast channel.
Are these podcasts? Is that classify as?
We're basically shooting a video podcast and we're just live streaming it as we're doing it, but the audio is podcast audio basically. So
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey guys, if you like watching this, please let us know. Drop a comment. Thanks to those are always nice. Similar to what Albert was saying was, like when you're staring at the camera and you're making content and you're just kind of putting it out there, you never know, what's happening as it goes out into the ether. So the people who take the time to write a little message, that is appreciated and noted. So thanks so much for doing that.
Yep.
All right. Well, signing off. We'll see you next week. Today was 4 of 6. Next week is 5 of 6. So make sure you catch the last 2 episodes if you're just finding us now. And we hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.